This episode sponsored by Lake Monster Details, producing the Don's Light and Magic Legacy line of parts, offering upgrade parts and decals for accuracy, special effects, and lighting. Visit www.lakemonsterdetails.com and make it glow. Also sponsored by GCals, producing aftermarket replacement decals and custom quality graphics for your favorite spaceships. Visit www.gcals.company.site and add some personalization to your sci-fi models today. Also sponsored by Mask Design, boldly going where no masking kit has gone before. Take your model to the next level of detail and accuracy with a masking kit from Mask Design. Visit Mask Design on Facebook or click the ordering link in the notes below the video. Modelers, Will here. Welcome to the Ensign's Chair. So, new episode, freshly back from Wonderfest. Just got off the bus yesterday. I didn't ride the bus, I drove. But just got back yesterday, and already I started digging into this model, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. But if you haven't been to Wonderfest yet, why? Why haven't you been to Wonderfest yet? You need to go to Wonderfest if you love modeling, you enjoy modeling and model building and seeing other people's work and enjoying other people's work and just enjoy talking to other people who are like-minded about models. You should go to Wonderfest. And this is my third year going, and probably the best, well, definitely the best year I've had so far. And a lot of that has to do with just making connections, making new friends, making new family members, as far as I'm concerned. And hanging out, talking about models, talking about other things, and just, talking to people that know what you're talking about when you talk about models. If your wife or your partner is not into models and you have nobody to talk to, you look forward to that one time a year when you can actually go somewhere and talk to somebody that knows what the hell you're talking about. But I enjoyed it this year. I entered the two models, the War Rocket and the Kronos 1. And just as last year, both those models got bronzes. Last year it was my big bird of prey and my TOS Enterprise with the control panel display stand. Those both took bronze, and this year both of these models took bronze. So real happy with that. Some models that were graded or rated or awarded. There's a couple models I saw that personally I thought they should have gotten a better rating than what they got. I keep saying rating, but for those of you that haven't been to Wonderfest, basically the way it works there, they break it all down into different groups. But really breaking it down into groups is just so you can kind of put models in a similar place. So, if you're only interested in miniatures, you can go look at miniatures and stuff like that. But you can have more than one bronze, more than one gold, more than one silver, you can have more than one award in each category. So it's more like they do a grading system for models. So when you enter a model into the contest, you can get a gold if you're lucky. Not a lot of those, as expected. That's the rarest one to find, but a lot of people do get golds. You can get a silver, you can get a bronze. You can also get what's called a merit award. And then you can also get just, from what I've seen, you can apparently just get a slash. And they didn't even bother judging your model, I guess. I don't know. Somebody that knows better than me can maybe fill in what the slash means. But I saw quite a few models that just had a slash and didn't have anything as far as a merit. They'll put an M for merit and a B for bronze, S for silver, G for gold. But so it's almost like a grading system, basically. When you take your model, and I love it, because you're not really competing against other modelers, so you can go there, you can cheer each other on, you can enjoy other people's work, and you're not secretly saying, man, my model's better than that one. Man, look, he screwed that up and he screwed that up. You don't have to do that because you're not being judged against other modelers. It's all just taking your model and seeing how it stacks up to their rating system. I guess I call it the rating system, but. So anyway, like I said, both of those models got bronze models, but that War Rocket was also photographed by Fine Scale Modeling Magazine, which I was ecstatic about. It last year, none of my models were chosen for that, and this year I actually had one that was chosen for it. How much that means, I don't know. I don't think those pictures actually show up in the magazine. Maybe they show up on the website somewhere. I don't know, but. It was kind of cool just to have them actually, have one of my models picked for that honor. To me, it's an honor. But the biggest honor of all on that is that John Eves loved that War Rocket model and gave me a lot of compliments on it. And that is the biggest thing. Not only because John Eves is such a big name in the Star Trek universe and in models and artwork, but because, and I didn't know this until I talked to John at the conference. I was talking to him for a bit at his booth. But I had mentioned that the reason I built that War Rocket, if you go back and watch the build videos, is because I saw that in the background of John Eves' room when he was doing his Q&A session for the virtual TrekCon back in February. So that's the whole thing that got me on to building that model. And come to find out, that model that's in the background is actually the prototype model for the Chronicle War Rocket Ajax models that Chronicle was putting out. And he did the prototype for that. So outside of the original model maker for the original War Rocket back in the 80s giving me praise or saying how much they appreciate that model, John Eves is the best you're going to get for that model, for any model really, but particularly since he made the prototype for the War Rocket for Chronicle. It was really awesome for John to show his appreciation for that model, and I appreciate him. But John's always good he's always fun to talk to, and always willing to chat you up about everything, not just Trek, but everything that he works on in the art world. So, but I thought that was really awesome, and that was really a highlight kind of the show for me, was to get that from John Eves, the legend. So with that being said, anyway, I'm back, and I've got this huge model that we're going to talk about. Now, just to put any fears to rest, we are getting back into the Enterprise A Ian Lawrence tribute build, which I've been working on for over a year. It's been sitting idle for the past 5 or 6 months because I wanted to get that War Rocket done in time and I knew I wouldn't be able to get that done in time for Wonderfest, so I switched over to the War Rocket because I wanted another model to take and enter into the contest. So now that is behind us, we can get back into the A. This build is going to be a slow burn of a build, and what I mean is it's probably going to take me 2 or 3 years to do this right. And the reason I say that is because, one, I've never worked with a resin model other than printed resin. I've never worked with a fully resin model like this, to where there's a lot of stuff that's got to be done, trimming and filling and sanding and smoothing, and just a whole lot of stuff that's got to be done to it to get it right. On top of that, this model, even though it is fiberglass, the main components are fiberglass reinforced, I'm still going to want some type of support structure in this. Mainly because I want to, it doesn't really have to do with worried about warping or anything as far as the fiberglass parts. But really just to tie the whole structure together, I'm going to want some type of internal framework. And I've never done one before, so that's going to take a little bit of work. I got to do some research and some figuring out how I want to do that. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. But also because the warp nacelles themselves, these are thin parts. They feel pretty rigid, but you know, if you get these parts warm at all, they will have a tendency to kind of warp. No pun intended. But so I do want, you know, some type of metal support rod down the nacelles here. You've already got some pretty good, and we'll talk about this more in a little bit, some pretty good support here. This is pretty thick, and it's, I believe it's got a, I don't know if it's got a metal plate in it or not, but it's got some type of reinforcement in it. So just that alone, just working out an internal structure for me is going to be something new I've got to learn and do. But in addition, I'm going to be doing my own lighting with this. I'm looking at using Inner-Lite. I think it's called Inner-Lite. I'm looking at using their system there at Wonderfest and showed it off, and I loved it. It was great. You can put it on the touch screen. You can use a touch screen to control all the lights in the model. So I love that. You could even control it on your watch if you have an Android watch. So I love that idea. I think I'm going to use that on this. So it's either going to be that or it's going to be just a custom. I'm just going to do a custom light in it. But I'm kind of leaning towards the Inner-Lite lighting system because I love it. It's relatively pricing it out just off the top of his head. I think he was estimating about $250 to do a lighting kit for this, which is comparable to something you would get. Sorry guys, I put my hand down. I accidentally hit the button to stop recording. So, but anyway, I was saying that the lighting system I'm looking to use is basically going to be either custom or that Inner-Lite I think I'm going to use. And then masking kit for painting the Aztecs. There isn't one available. One doesn't exist. And I don't foresee anybody making one. So if I have to, I'll make one myself. I have my Cricut. I can cut mask, vinyl mask just fine, especially for this size. And if I have to, I'll do that. And if I've got to develop my own masking kit, it's going to take me a little while to get. I'm going to have to look at reference photos and try to get it as close to possible as what the studio model looked like. We'll have to do some paint tests. And this model, the studio model, actually had a combination of kind of the more pastel blues and the grays. And it also did have some pearlescent paints on it as well. If you look at the pictures of the studio model, you can see there are some pearlescent paints. Not as much as the refit, which I guess is why they felt comfortable doing it with all the trouble they had shooting the refit. But there are some pearlescent panels spread throughout this model. So that's something else that's going to have to be worked out. So a lot to do on this, a lot to figure out. But enough of that. Let's talk about the model in general. I'm going to bring you in closer so you can get a better look at it. So give me a minute. We'll put you on the bench. We'll get to work. All right, so I brought you in a little bit closer so you can see this a little bit better. But let's start off with the main structure here. This is the lower half of the hull. And basically what you see is the white parts, this part, the saucer up and bottom, the top of the second or the engineering hull, and the lower part of the warp nacelles, the lighter color. These are all cast resin parts. And they're beautifully done. They've got great, if it can pick it up, they've got awesome panel lines on it and some really nice detailed work. The only thing I'm going to need to do this is there are a couple spots where some air bubbles got into the mold. I don't know if you can pick those up. I think you can see them right here. There are some air bubble spots that are going to need to be fixed. So those need to be puttied and sanded and filled in. But that's not a big deal. That's not going to be hard to do. For the most part, the rest of it is in excellent condition. And as you can see, it is fiberglass reinforced. Jonathan Marshall that does these models, he usually will clean this fiberglass up ahead of time. This one, he did pretty much clean this up. I've just got some edges I've got to sand and work out a couple areas where the upper half needs to join to this. But you can see the upper half of the saucer. I had the option of waiting and having this completed and mailed, but he had the parts there. And this, getting rid of the excess fiberglass isn't a big deal. I just get my rotary saw for my Dremel, and I'll just cut all that off, and then I'll come around and sand the edge to get it nice and smooth to where everything will fit. So that's why you see some fiberglass around this edge. The bottom half, if I can pick this off, you can see is already cleaned up. So I just got to work on that, and that's basically what I'm doing right now, is just kind of cleaning some stuff up. And so the lighter colored parts are a poured resin parts. The gray parts that you see, the darker colored parts, these are all 3D printed parts, and that's great because the detailed parts that have some of the, I don't know if they really have much finer detail than this part, except for this part back here. They're poured resin, so that way you get all that detail, but they turned out great. This whole thing goes together pretty simple. You can see that's basically the saucer section, and then this back section, the impulse deck, I guess you could say, goes on, and then your upper section where the bridge goes just lays on like that, and then your impulse deck, which this one's got the 2 impulse crystals. The Excelsior, of course, only has the single, which is why I guess you see kind of a smaller opening and a larger opening here, because that larger opening is so you can get these both lit easily. And so you've got that. You've got this plate that goes in place back here, and that's just smooth. It's got some Aztecing on it that's going to have to be done to it after it's smooth and primed and all that. And it doesn't quite fit in there. It's a little bit, just ever so slightly oversized, and that's fine because that lets me kind of work this gradually into place. And what I'm hoping, I think these seams on this are visible on the studio model, I believe. I don't think these have to be sanded and hidden. And if that's the case, what I want to try to do is leave this to where this part can be pulled off. You can see there's, if you can see from the camera, there's kind of a recessed lip on this. So what I'd like to do is just cut this open part, this part here open, leave that open, have this cover that, and then that way if I need to access the internals, I can just get this part pulled out. My deflector dish is going to be, the back of the deflector dish is basically going to be right here. And the opening, or this hole, is so big that basically I could fit my hand in here if I need to get to the wiring back here as well. So I think I'm going to be able to do that. That's what I hope to do, is just leave this open to be accessible. I want to try to leave some parts to where I can just pull them up and access the electronics in certain areas. I may be able to do that for this part as well because it kind of fits so well into place, and you don't have a whole lot of a gap. Again, it's just going to depend on what I see as far as seams on the studio model. If I can see a seam around here, definitely I'll do it. But if no seam is visible around this part, I may have to go ahead and putty it, and maybe I can make it to where this whole thing pulls off and just cut this open to where I can access the electronics inside the saucer section. So that's my plan for that. I want to be able to access the internal electronics after it's done as much as possible. That way, if any repairs need to be made onto it, they can be done. But you can see everything here is kind of fits in together. This part here, I've just got this kind of taped on because I just want to get an idea of how long this is. By my measurements, this measures about 38 inches long, which is just over 3 feet, which is pretty close to the Greg Jean 3-foot Excelsior model that he made for the Voyager flashback episode. So that's great. I actually saw that model in person, and this seems about right for that. So I'm happy with that. I'm glad this is going to be close to something studio scale. Even if it's not close to the actual Enterprise B model studio scale, at least it's close to some studio scale model. But it's a pretty big size. For a size comparison, let me show a couple things real quick. So, other than this, the largest Enterprise B model available is the AMT model, the 11000. So this is the dish for the 11000 Enterprise B. So you can see the size difference there. It's quite a difference there. Now you can get there are other aftermarket people that are putting out the Enterprise B and the Excelsior model. But as far as readily available, this kit is pretty much the only one that's readily available from a manufacturer. So compared to this, you can see it's quite a bit bigger. So it's going to be a fun build. And on top of that, 1537 refit model currently available. Here is the dish for that for comparison, so you can see the difference there. That's a big ship, as he said, but that's going to be great to have this at the same scale as the 1537 refit, because this may get me going back into my maybe what I need to get me to finish up my smoothie that's been languishing unfinished for a couple years now. So to have that, and then have this 1537B, and I'll find another maybe a TOS model that's close to this scale as well, even if it's just the 1650. It's, you know, something that's close to it to put that in there as well. It'd be nice to have all those. Unfortunately, I will say I don't know of a 1650 Enterprise C. There may be one out there in the 3D print world, because there's a lot of stuff floating around. But there is a 1650D, I believe, and I think that's what Andrew over at Canadian Starships is working on. I think that one's from Helios, and he had that at the show, and it's quite a big saucer. I want to say it's probably about that wide, and maybe that's not a 1650. I think he said that was a 1650, but I'd have to double check on that. You can check on his channel, and you can see that build over there. But yeah, so this is going to be a fun, interesting build. Like I said, this is going to be a slow bit of a build, because there's some techniques that are going to be done on this model that I've got to learn yet. I don't know. One of them is this is going to have an internal structure. Now, even though fiberglass back, these parts are pretty strong, the main structure parts, I do want something in each of the nacelles to help with those, because these are poured resin parts and they are so thin. I do want to have some type of a rod down the axis of this to kind of make sure that this doesn't start warping or anything over time. So that's got to be done. This already has a bit of reinforcement in the pylons here, and let me see if I can get this apart without messing anything up. And let me show you what this has. So this all just comes apart. Let's see if I can pull this out. I've worked it into place. There we go. So you can see this part here. This is also a poured part, but there is, I don't know if it's metal or what, but there is reinforcement in this, and it's sturdy. I don't think you're going to have to worry about warping on that. You've got some bolts on the bottom that go in and bolt this part actually to that. But you can see that there is some cleanup needed. Hopefully my autofocus is working. There we go. But you can see there's a lot of flashing on there, and you can see this side I've already cleaned up. So there's some work to do on it. The nacelles, one of these nacelles, this one here, I had to clean up quite a bit. But this nacelle actually is in pretty good shape. It's pretty clean already, and I haven't done anything with it, other than the front had to be cleaned up some. But so it is quite a bit of work that has to be done cleaning this up in some spots. And as far as changing this over to the Enterprise B, these are all pretty much Excelsior parts, except for, I believe, the upper hull, or the upper saucer, I think. Well, even that I think is still Excelsior. I think the only parts that are different are these resin parts between the Excelsior and the B. So you've got to modify this a bit in order to get these parts to fit. For example, I'm having to gradually sand away part of this front end of the nacelle in order to get this cowling that has to go on the front. It's got to slide over the front here, and I'm still working on that. There's still quite a bit of work to do, but I've got it. I'm doing it a little bit at a time because I don't want to take away too much material. You know, it's fine to take away not enough and just have to do it a little bit at a time, but then it is to take away a whole lot of it and end up taking away too much. So I'm taking my time doing that. But still ways to go. These parts actually need to match up with the bottom edge here where the grills are. And so this part goes on, and then you've got a resin cast, a clear resin cast dome that goes around, or shroud that goes around the front here. And that just slides into place just like that. So that's kind of how that's going to look. Like I said, still got quite a bit of work to do to get this to completely go in place. But that's coming into focus for me there. And then this back part doesn't appear to need any modification. Really, it just kind of fits over. Let's see if I can get this to fit in place here. It just kind of fits over this back part, and then of course these got to be glued in place to hold everything down. But that's pretty much how that goes in place. So that's how that's going to look. So quite a bit of work to do to get everything blended together. But you know, like I said, this is going to be a bit of a slow burn to get this built. And so that's that stuff. Then you've got this back piece just comes off. And then you've got your, I think this is like the officer's rear lounge or something like that is what it was labeled on the schematics. But it's got quite a few windows, so I don't know if this whole thing is supposed to be a lounge. But then you've got your back shuttle bay. And I think that Mike Hazelwood had told me that they had done a decal so that if you wanted to show this rear shuttle bay open, you could. And they've got a decal that actually goes in there for the floor. So that's kind of awesome. And he also, Jonathan also had, I believe he said he had these done by Laserfire Creations. You've got these lenses for your impulse engine that go in the back, that fit right in the back here, to give you your effect back there for the impulse engine. So that's great. That's awesome that he did that for both of these. So you've got that part, and a whole bunch of parts in here. Lower sensor dome. That's got to be worked out yet. That's going to take a little bit of work because to light this, you've got to cut these open, and you got to do all that yourself. And everything's got to be primed and painted and sanded. And here are the impulse engines for the sides here. You got one on each side. And I think he said, too, that they also made this, apparently originally these were going to be shuttle bays, and instead they were made into impulse engines. So they actually, I think he said they've got parts to actually make these into shuttle bays if you wanted to. You would have that option. But once I get all this excess cut off, it won't fit on there now. These will just go in place right here, just like that. Actually, I got them upside down. This one will go on this side, just like that. So, can't wait to get to that point, but got a lot of work to do. I've also got the hanger parts for underneath are right here. And you've also got, where is it? You got some more clear parts here. You've got some fins, I think, that go on the back here, maybe. And then there's your there is your deflector dish right there. Oh, and then you've got this part that goes under the rear section in the back. I think that's that just gets painted like a silver or a metallic color, I believe. So you got all that, and because somebody asked about these, I also have, if I can get them out, without bending them all up. You also have your decal sheet. Now this does not have Aztecs, and I've been asked about whether or not Gary was going to do the Aztecs for this one. He did the Aztecs for the Enterprise E. I do not know. I am not aware of Gary planning on doing anything for the Enterprise B. Right now he's kind of hard at work on getting out the Reliant Aztec masking set. So if nobody else does it for this scale, and I don't think anybody will, I will be working out my own Aztecs, and if I work out something suitable for sharing, I will be happy to share that, whether it is sharing the files for you to cut yourself, or whether it is cutting them and selling them. But here is, I believe this is that decal for that rear shuttle bay in the back. I think that's this one here, and then I believe these two here are for the alternate, instead of the Impulse having shuttle bays there. But they were Impulse engines on the Enterprise A in the movie, so I will be making them shuttle bays as well. And then he's got your hull markings here, depending on which version you're doing. He's got the registry for Excelsior on here, but I've got the Enterprise B model, so that's what I will be doing. And the funny thing is that Mike even noticed, and other decal makers have noticed, that when they did this model and changed it over to the Repulse, or actually, I'm sorry, the Lakota, they actually had the NCC with a blue background, but the Lakota was actually with black background numbers. So that's how they've got it on here. And so it's up to you how you want to do it. I thought that he had these in both, in case you want to do it either way. No, I don't know. Don't see it. But then here's all your markings for your lines, and you got your escape hatches, your phasers, and a couple other markings. These are for your yeah, I'm drawing a blank on it. Jesus, totally drawing a blank on the name now. For your yeah, we're gonna skip that for now because now I'm drawing a blank on it. But your your little things that make the things that make the ship move when it's sitting still. You know, when you want it to turn left or right. You know, your RCS thrusters. There you go. Whew, that took a minute to get out. So they've got the decals that go around your RCS thrusters, and the ones that go around your lights. And I believe, yeah, all of these are. You don't have to, these aren't something you're gonna have to cut out yourself. These are actually made to where, just like something you would get from Polar Lights or any other decal manufacturer, these are actually made to where they come off exactly as they're shaped. You don't have to cut them out like you would some of the aftermarket decal sheets. And I don't know if you can see that on there or not, how these are cut. And they're cut pretty close to the lettering as well. They kind of cut around, and you've got a piece that joins it all together in the middle. So that's great the way they did that. So those are your decals. That's what you get. And I think that's pretty much it. I mean, that's just pretty much wanted to give an overview of this model for Marshall Models. I can't compare it to any of the other models that are out there. I think the only one I know of that there's only one other manufacturer I know of that does the 1350, and I just said the name earlier, and that now that's drawing a blank on me. It's late at night right now, so I'm kind of ready to go to bed here in a little bit. But they make this one in 1537, but the Excelsior he makes in a 1537 and a 1350, if you can believe that. That's the one he had on display, and it was huge. And I think there's something else. There's a couple other ships he makes too. You'll have to go on his website and look, which I'll put the link for Marshall Models in the notes below this video, so check there for it. But I don't really want to drag this out more than I have to. I just kind of want to give an overview of the model, all the bits and pieces that go to it, and basically, like I said, I'm going to work on, right now I'm just going to be working on kind of cleaning this up and getting these parts ready. They need to be washed because they do still have a release agent on them from where they were pulled from the mold. I actually, the one he had on display, I put my hand on, was a little tacky, and I thought it was something on my hands, and Jonathan said, no, that's the release agent. So, but these still have a release agent because I actually stuck a piece of tape on here earlier and ended up, it wouldn't stick. So there's definitely a release agent on this. So I've got to clean these up, both the excess flash and all that, and they've got to get washed real good and cleaned up. But let me set this aside. And this lower section, like I said, I'm going to do an internal support structure on this because, for one thing, I do not trust just epoxying this to the top of this and then epoxying it to the bottom of this. I don't trust that to hold it. So I'm going to come up with a support structure. There's going to be some type of probably do like a through bolt or something to hold this whole thing together into the engineering hall and give it a lot more support. I do want to say the only real inaccuracy, the only inaccuracy I've seen on this, and it's not a big one, and I could be totally wrong in this. I could be seeing that maybe I'm looking at the pictures the wrong way, but where this goes together, I looked at this and this just looked odd to me, the way that you had this big gap here. Well, the gap is correct, but if you look at the studio model, and I'll try to pull a picture up and show it on here while I'm talking about this. If you look at the studio model, look at this gap. This area here should actually be sloped down to the top of the neck. So you should have a slope here, whereas on this it's just dropping straight off. And then when it gets down here, it kind of curves a little bit, and you end up with a little bit of a lip here. This should not be, on the end here, should not be even with the this band that goes around the outside of the saucer. This shouldn't be even with that. It should be raised a little bit, but just a little bit lower than this upper part here. So two ways this could be fixed. I could put epoxy sculpt in there and try to smooth it out and work it out. I'm no good at sculpting. I am not a great sculptor. The other option is to go into CAD and work out an insert that would basically go in there and fix that missing contour there. And I think that's what I'm going to do. And then that way, if it's something Jonathan wants to include or maybe incorporate into his molds for future mold making, I don't know. Or I could just put it out there for free download for anybody that's got this model that wants to make that correction. But I'm going to see if I can come up with an insert that just basically goes in there. You would glue it in place, and then of course you'd have to putty the seam around here because there shouldn't be a seam to it. And that'll basically recreate that slope down to the top of the neck, and then create that contour where it kind of curves and lays flat on this end, and you still got a little bit of a raise. It should be a raise a little bit. It should be halfway between this part, the height of this part, and the height of this part. It should come in about halfway down that. So that way it looks like this circle completely goes to the neck. But anyway, other than that, that's the only thing I've come up with that I've seen that looks a bit inaccurate. But that shouldn't be too difficult of a fix. It's just going to be the contouring, getting the contouring right, and getting the part to fit in there. That's going to take a little bit of work. And I'm not sure if this goes that way or the other way, but this should sit in there. This back part should come right up to that edge there. So I think that's about where it's supposed to go. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. I just want to kind of pull this model out and show everybody who might be curious about it. Like I said, it's a real nice looking model. It's going to take a lot of work and a lot of time to do it justice. So you'll see videos on this pop up every once in a blue moon. It's not something that's going to be a weekly or not necessarily even a monthly update. Whenever I have enough material that I want to make a video out of it and put it out, I will. But I'll basically be working on this kind of on the back burner. My main goal is to start work on that Ian Lawrence A tribute build and get that, and hopefully have that in time for Wonderfest next year, because I really want to get that there. I'm real happy with the way that forward observation turned out. It's unique because it's got that forward observation, so I'd like to kind of get that there. Don't know if I'll enter it in the contest or not, but either one way or another, I'd like to have it there just to put on display. And on top of that, I wasn't looking to pick up any more builds this year. I was pretty much looking to try to concentrate on just the Ian Lawrence build. I've got the Exploding Death Star I kind of want to get done, and I kind of want to get back into my 1-250 Reliant as well. Since it sounds like we may get a 1-350 Reliant from Round 2 Polar Lights here in the next, hopefully in the next maybe 2 or 3 years. Jamie said they've got all the photographs they need now, detailed photographs they need of the studio model to actually start on it, and he said they would do that sooner rather than later. So hopefully we'll have that 1-350 Reliant model that we've been begging for probably 2 or 3 decades now. But hopefully that's coming. So I'd like to get that 1-250 done before it kind of becomes irrelevant at that point. But I did agree to do 2 other builds that I need to do. One is the the 1000 USS Excelsior. I will be doing the NCC 2000 version, not the NX version. So it'll pretty much be a lot like this model, but a few differences. It won't have all the modifications to the impulse deck in that. Mainly doing that because I've got my own pictures of that 3-foot Greg Jean model that I took at the Skirball a couple years ago for reference, in addition to the other photos that are available on the internet. So I'm going to do that one. And I am also going to do a 1537 USS Reliant. Gary over at Mass Design is working on that masking set now, and I'm hoping that once he gets done with that, I will be. Hopefully, I'll get a set of those from him and be able to do that just like I did with the Kronos one last year. And the NX or the NCC 1000 scale, the NCC Excelsior if I could talk today, the Excelsior NCC 2000 1000. I will actually be using a set of decals of Aztecs from Gus that he created over at GCal. So I'll be doing a little bit of both there, a little bit of decal Aztecs and some masking Aztecs. So we've got that coming up here probably in the next, before the end of summer, probably around sometime next month or August. I'll be getting around to starting those builds. So we've got those coming up, and that's pretty much it. My plate's going to be full because I don't want to put too much on. I do want to get that A done for next Wonderfest, and maybe we'll get some of this other stuff at Wonderfest too. We'll see. But anyway, guys, that's it. I just wanted to do an introduction to this and an introduction to my plans for building this. Again, it's probably going to be a little bit before you see another video on this, but if you are interested in this and you want to see the videos on this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed and you enjoy any of these videos. It costs you nothing, but it helps me out. I do potentially have a new sponsor coming on board. I'm working on the details, so I don't want to say who it is, but you'll know them when I say their name. But I'm working on that. Cass is kind of helping me out getting that lined up. So hopefully by the time I put out another video after this, not just this, but any other video after this, hopefully I will have a new sponsor lined up. And that'll give me 4 sponsors. And I've enjoyed working with those guys. They've got some great products, and I've enjoyed using them and displaying them and showing them on this channel. But please help me out with that. Sponsorships are helped out by subscribers. So if you subscribe to this channel, it helps grow my subscriber base, and it helps me attract more sponsors. So please hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything, like I said, but it helps me out a lot in that respect. And if you want the notifications whenever I put out a video, hit that little bell icon too. If you don't do that, you won't get any of the notifications whenever something pops up. So hit that little bell icon. But again, as always, I want to give a shout out to my sponsors, Gus over at Gus over at GCals, Gary over at Mass Design, and Cass over at Lake Monster Details. I will be using all of them. I will be using some of their products for the different models coming up. So please show them some love. Their links for their wares are always in the notes below this video. So again, thank everybody for watching. Till next time, keep modeling.